Morning. Great to see you again.
Hey,
12 hours later.
good to see you. Good to be seen. I guess Allison, Frank, I wasn't here last time, so I don't even know where you guys left off, or where you guys are at. So,
Allison,
take it away.
Don't you look for something? I blame Allison. I dump it on Allison.
So, we decided at the last meeting to look at Residence A, Residence A1, and Residence A2 and compare any changes from the current ordinance to Tara's ordinance. And I said I would pull out all the regulations related to RA, RA1, and RA2. I have done that as well as B, C, and D because RA, A1, and A2, there's really not much to look at. Those are all single-family zones. And they're, just for the record, there were no changes from Tara's to, or from the current to Tara's.
On those two?
On those three. Yeah, just until we. Well, here, I can just. Melissa. Hopefully I've got enough copies. That was why I wasn't here, was making an extra set.
The other thing we ought to do is, on our own, when we're sitting here, if you think of something, especially you and I, the stuff that's come in front of us, things that might be an issue that maybe there is no changes, but we should talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one that pops to my mind is, you know, being able to pave your front yard and, you know, make it a huge parking lot.
Right.
You know, we battled back and forth on that one a couple times, and things that might have come up, or things that you see as a resident or anybody driving around, you might see something that you don't think's right in the zone. Now's the time, I think, to start jotting those notes down and bringing them out.
Okay, what about the shared driveway? There seems to be a lot of issues with those.
It depends on, I mean, I don't know what you mean by issue. I mean, I personally don't have an issue with a shared driveway if it's done right.
Well,
But
I think
guess
she's probably referring to that mess on Rogers because it's been in the paper for,
Well, and there's
Week.
one on Riverdale.
And
Moors.
there's one by me where their driveway is so tight that the woman put up a fence right on her property line. And now the person can't get into their backyard where their garage originally was. So it is
I
an
don't think
issue
she can do
sometimes, but there's nothing
She
to
do
do.
that.
well, if it's not deeded,
Well,
Right, if there's no right of way.
That's how she gets to do it.
She had a permit and they let her put the
Right, but
fence
that would
right
have
on the
to
line.
be deeded.
because a lot of these are just old school,
Right.
you know, handshakes between neighbors, and it's just been that way for decades,
The
and
one on Rogers is probably like that.
Yeah.
Two neighbors got together and said,
I
yeah,
did
let's
drive
do
by
it.
and see that, though.
Why
That's
would
kind
you,
of an
why would
odd
you said old school?
setup.
because he's been in the real estate business forever.
I noticed,
I'd take that as an
but I was
insult.
gonna let it go by,
No,
thanks.
I want to make
But you
sure.
wanted to point it out.
Go ahead, Allison.
I'm old, but not
That's on
ancient,
track.
I think.
So, all I've pulled for A, A1, and A2 is just the area dimensional requirements. I didn't pull the use table. Well, I didn't do the use table for any of them because I started and it was just incredibly tedious. There's so many different uses. So what I did in these packets I gave you was printed out in color Tara's use table. And then if you want to compare it to the existing one as we go through, feel free. Please hang on to those. It has all of the districts on it. So
Thank you.
we can look at it for this set, for the next set, and until we're done. You do have it in your actual, in the Tara ordinances, but I figured it would be easier to separate it out for you.
Could you instruct me where in the current zoning?
Section 5 is the uses. Section 6 is area dimensional requirements.
It blows my mind. I never realized
Thank you.
that frontage was the same on every zone.
Right. And so just for now, for residence A, A1, and A2, Frank was saying the frontage requirement is the same across the board. And that is true for,
But that's not lot width.
that is
No,
not
that's
lot width.
Frontage. But that.
And that's true for all of the zone, all of the residential zones have 75 feet of frontage requirement, except
RD.
RC. I'm talking about existing, except for RC, which has some increased requirements for multifamily. Terra has added residence D.
What's RD?
Terra has added that,
RD?
Right,
residence
that's not in the
D.
current ordinance.
That's not in the current
What the hell
ordinance.
is that?
So is that for the Merrick?
Merrick section,
Oh.
for the 50 by 100 lots
Right.
that dominate the Merrick section.
So
That's
that will
specifically
fix-
why she created this.
So that's given them more leeway to be able to rebuild.
Yeah, it'll make all of those lots conforming, but they can only put a single family house.
What happens if there's an existing two-family? What is that? Does
It
make
gets treated the same,
non-conforming?
yes, they're already non-conforming and it would remain non-conforming unless they have 10,000 square feet.
So if you have an existing two-family and it has to be rebuilt for whatever reason, fire, whatever,
The same
Then they have
rules
to
that
build-
apply.
75%, right?
Yeah, if it's more than 75% damage, they have to get a special permit.
so they could build a two-family again with a special permit.
Exactly, yep.
You can't change the footprint.
It has to stay.
Yeah, they
properly.
basically had to rebuild what was there.
And it's
But
just
that's
a lot of
still-
time,
right.
which is, I think, fair for a town,
Mm-hmm.
time-wise. I just, the frontage blows my mind. I think that creates, it creates opportunity for like just ugly lots. Now, you can have a 75, I know, obviously from a developer standpoint, hell, 50 foot would be nice. I don't know.
But that
I'm
only,
just
that only
surprised.
refers to street frontage.
Right.
I mean, it's not a big part of the overall.
Right.
'Cause-
And you need it
because you
for like
still
a
need the lot width
cul-de-sac
and
or
everything
something like that. I
right.
just don't know. I'm just saying, you go down the street,
Like, where are you thinking that it's different, or it should be different? More or less.
honestly, I'm not sure. I'm thinking it should be different. I'm trying to think of things that have come up in the past and,
I mean, we kind of addressed it with lot width,
Yeah.
not that I want
Right.
to talk about that again particularly, but,
if everybody's okay with it, don't waste time. I always thought, like, the most restrictive are RA, I thought, like mine, I always thought I had to have a 100-foot front, 150-foot front. And I remember when I bought that was the big deal, oh, you gotta have 150, and I think, obviously, it was a mistake, I think, at that point, but I don't think that we went down. But all those lots, when Mr. Balboni split them up, he made them all like 150-foot frontage, 125, I don't remember what it is, but 75 just seems small.
Yeah.
It just,
So-
to me, if you're in a, like, up in the end of Bear Hole and you got all these big 2-acre lots and they only have to have a 75-foot frontage, I mean, it starts to look like put that in a development,
Right, where you're
somewhere
putting the
else,
lot.
75 is
Probably
probably
a lot.
fine. Or you get on a cul-de-sac, you can't, there's no way in hell you can have a 150-foot frontage.
for the most part in the developments, it's easier and more economical to make regular shaped lots, so they typically have more than 75 feet, because it wouldn't make sense to do anything.
I'm fine with it. It was more of a surprise to me.
I think those houses on Churchill and up in that area are 75 feet.
Where?
Churchill,
Where's that?
Harwich.
Yep, and those don't look horrible.
What do they have? I didn't hear you.
I think they have 75 feet on Churchill.
Are they newer or are they
No.
older?
No, no,
No, built
those
in
are
the
all
40s and 50s.
1940s maybe.
Yeah, so they're probably
back.
75 the whole way, or they rectangular
That's all I'm
lots.
saying. If it was
Yeah.
75 in a square lot,
Right.
what I'm saying is you're gonna get somebody that needs to sneak an extra lot in and they take that 75 and whatever.
Well,
It's not a big deal.
again,
We
I
don't
think-
have that much land left to work
Well, we-
on.
I do think we addressed it with the lot
Okay.
width
Lot width,
requirements
yeah.
that should sort of nip, and for what it's worth, we set a minimum frontage of 75 feet even for flag lots, so.
Are we gonna do any consideration of tiny home developments?
Well, that would be a cluster, probably.
In more ways than one.
Did you miss this? I was finishing that sentence.
I don't, I'm not eager to do that, because Hadley has had a really challenging time. We would need Jonathan to come in if we wanted to do that, I think.
I guess what's everybody, what's your thought? I mean, we wanna ban these things, or we wanna pick an area where they can
Well,
have
don't we have a
them, or-
minimum square footage anyways for single families? Or somewhere, or is that just
Simple.
apartments?
For dwelling unit, I believe it's 600 square feet.
Why wouldn't it have to be on a foundation or something? I don't understand.
Well, that's a
I don't know enough about
Because
those.
they're,
Right, so
in
it's
theory,
it's a
they're,
trailer.
I did follow that.
exactly,
Hadley
they're
story, but-
portable, and
And
it's
then,
like,
well,
you know,
yeah,
it's
I don't
that,
believe-
you know, you don't have
Well,
to
for anyone, I
commit to
don't
living in
think
West
it is.
Springfield. If you all of a sudden get a
Yeah.
job offer in Tennessee, you can take your tiny home and go off to
But
But
Tennessee.
there's,
You know,
it's more than just zoning, it's health and
Right.
building code issues related to
Yeah,
it
I
as
see
well.
a lot of issues from it with a building code
Mm-hmm.
and being legal in Massachusetts, period.
I don't understand why they're not looked at as a trailer. I got 10 acres of land, I can turn it into a campground and fill it up with tiny homes. It makes no sense to me. They're trailers, they're on wheels. It's a camping trailer, or RV, just a homemade one.
Yeah, but they live.
Not all of them.
And then they
Right,
live.
they're
in
not
them.
all-
If they're built on a
Was that-
foundation,
The one in Hadley, wasn't
and
that?
it's done
permanent, or was that
correctly,
on
then
wheels?
who cares if it's a tiny house?
Hers was on
It was on a
wheels.
chassis, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't
because she
remember.
came to talk to us at Rotary.
Oh, she did?
Yeah,
Hi, Carly.
The,
Yeah.
the person from Hadley?
yeah,
The young woman,
because,
yeah.
what's his name, Simon Briganti was representing part of that, I guess.
Oh, well, then he might be a good person to come in and talk about it as well, his experiences in Hadley.
So one
Some
of the
insight.
things, I have friends who are kind of interested in that kind of thing, and not so much the portability of it, but the size and not having to have a half-acre lot, because they don't want to maintain that as they get older, and really looking forward to having a smaller home with a close community that people can interact and kind of support each other. And,
So that's the mobile home district in our case.
right,
Or
but
the
if you
over
wanted
50
to.
parks.
Yeah, but why do you have to have something that's big lots and big houses? Why couldn't we have the potential to have something small?
We do, the Brush Hill, the mobile home development, they're small,
Okay,
And
that's
that's a
mobile
community.
homes though.
well, but they're not mobile, they're on foundations, so it's,
Well,
that's
But
just
What I'm
a
saying is
They're on
if
there,
nomenclature.
somebody
they're on
wanted to
piers
come in
or
and put
whatever,
a
yeah.
Development of houses on small lots, you could do that and
They'd have to
go under the-
rezone it to the mobile home.
So it would fall under the mobile home zoning, so you,
Yeah, because that would make, that's the easiest comparison, because it's small,
Again,
right,
if
plots of
someone wanted
land.
to build a house, a small house, on a foundation, like a big house, we don't have a minimum size house, do we?
I think 600.
Dwelling unit has to be 600 square feet.
600, I mean, that's,
that's smaller
This
than this
room.
room, right?
so, I mean, how big of a, 600,
20 by 30?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably close to
Close
this
to
room.
this room.
Yeah,
So,
the tiny houses are
That's a
much
tiny house.
smaller.
So you can already
You know, we're
do
talking
it.
300.
My problem
Yeah, or
is,
less
the
probably
portable
myself.
ones, when they got the wheels on them, and they got extension cords running to the neighbor's house, and they're doing all the, propane tanks sitting on the driveway, that's the problem I have. The size of the house, if you wanna buy a 1/4 acre lot and put a 600 square foot house on it, so be it, that's your choice. I mean, that's not, you can do that now.
Or are you talking about they wanna build like a community where several of their friends
Right.
wanna come in and they all wanna build tiny houses? So,
I could never
here's
live
the
in a tiny
thing
house,
I learned about planning when I was on there.
unless I was a widow.
Is you can't really restrict, you have to let everything in, but you have to only let it in certain areas, right?
No.
No. That's only
You don't have to
true
let
of certain
everything.
things.
Well, I mean, like even when we did the adult bookstore, we didn't totally not have it, we just made it.
But that
so
wasn't,
that-
that was.
That comes in with like your First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
That
That's,
was like
the
medical
courts have
marijuana.
specifically
What would
ruled.
that happen, like on a law part with a tiny house?
I don't think there's a First Amendment right that you have to be able to have a small house if you want. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
My own opinion about it, I think it's a trend and it's just gonna disappear.
Not with the millenniums.
I'm not sure. I mean, it
I don't
is
know
a
if I'm a
trend,
millennium,
and
but I
everything's
would
a
not
trend,
live in a
everything's
tiny
gonna
house.
disappear. I mean, it's like having a house that used to have pink tile, they don't do that anymore, but it's real.
Oh, no, it's definitely real.
so should we
And I
have someone
just
come in and
think-
talk about it?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that it needs to be looked at two different ways. I mean, it either got wheels or doesn't have wheels. It's not a tiny house, it's a freaking trailer.
Yup,
And
it's a mobile
tiny
home.
house, I don't have a problem with if it's on a foundation and built to code. You can have a 600 square foot house, which is pretty darn tiny. So,
But to Allison's point, I mean, they
There's-
should be treated as the same as John Drive at this point.
and I gotta, I'm not sure I even agree with that. I mean, yeah, that would be the closest, but to me, they're more like a travel trailer. That person at Brush Hill can't hook that thing up to their 3/4 ton pickup and drive away.
No, they can't,
They
but
can have a tiny house.
they can have that, they can move that mobile home to a different location if they so choose, because the wheels are underneath them.
Or will you just put Meg and John in the tiny house and keep
They
it up?
cannot do it.
No, they personally cannot. You need a slightly
You
bigger.
can move a house, you know what I'm saying? That's a
I
different.
don't want to
it's-
have to get my hair cut in tiny.
So what's the
Those tiny
issue, the
homes
size or the portability?
I think it's the portability, because to Frank's point, it creates more of a campground type thing.
You can just have transient people come in, like they go to Florida with their tiny house during the winter, and then they come back and put their tiny house there. during the
Where are
summer.
they that you can?
If you're lucky, otherwise you're gonna have millennials living in their parents' backyards in tiny houses, or their cousin from out of town. In Springfield, we have them in trailers and
Or
backyards all over the
Airbnb.
place, people setting up permanent shop.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't live here, I'm just sleeping here for the night. Well, you sleep here 365 nights a year, so you're living here.
Or you could Airbnb them too.
Again, to me, it's more the portability and, I mean, you know.
Well, what was the issue in Hadley? I thought the issue, part of the issue
It was
was the
health.
size.
Health.
Yeah, but that's what, it
Health
came
code.
down to, like, not necessarily this, but it was the size because of the, like, the sanitary and
Okay.
the,
State
Because they
sanitary
weren't hooked up
code
to,
building.
like,
So it
It's,
wasn't the
septic
portability, at least in
Wow.
Hadley.
yeah, it didn't seem to be that they cared how small the house was in terms of, like, zoning. They seemed to care about it because they didn't think it was sanitary.
well, I think it's,
And it didn't.
I think it was
code.
both, because they wanted to put it on the same lot as a house, and I think you couldn't have two dwellings on.
Dwellings on the same lot.
But then there is also the state sanitary code and building code issues. So just as an aside, each dwelling shall provide a minimum net floor area per dwelling unit as follows for multifamily dwelling units. We have a minimum for that. A two-family has to have a minimum net floor area of 640 square feet. But I don't think we have a minimum for a single family that I'm seeing.
Is that in the table?
It's,
So,
yeah, it's
this
the
room is
notes.
the size of the house. That is the minimum square footage that we have right now.
For a two-family dwelling, each unit has to have that. For multifamily, a one-room, like an efficiency, only needs to have 325 square feet.
This is like 20 by 30.
An efficiency,
That's-
320?
That, some of the
That's
small
half of this
houses
room.
aren't any bigger than that.
Half of this room. This room is 600 and
You just kind of have aisles, which are 12 by 12.
that's crazy. But again, I don't think anybody should be forced to have a used house. I just don't think they can treat it like a trailer.
Okay.
So when you have these new developments, you're probably a good person, person to answer, Bill. When they have these new developments, and I thought I'd seen things like minimum half-acre lots, is that a town requirement, or is that the developer requirement?
It could be
Could
both.
be
I mean,
both.
when I looked at places that had covenants that were restricted to how the house had to be a certain,
Oh, yeah.
a minimum size. It's just like,
Well, that's a
Minimum
that's
size.
a company
The
in
house, I'm
development.
Right.
talking about, but
But
I'm
it-
talking about the lot.
The lots, yeah, I mean, I think in the RA1 zone, the minimum is
All on your sheets.
20,000 square feet, which is just a shade under a half acre. And then the RA1, the RA zone is 30,000 feet, which is just a tad under three
Which
quarters.
is right here on our
Yeah,
paper.
I see that. So what is the purpose of that large size?
So you don't end up with cluster,
Well,
too high of a density.
it's just it's a long time trend, you know, most cities and towns have varying single-family zones that provide for bigger lots, bigger houses as the town grows. I think when the three residential zones were established, probably goes back to, I don't know, 50s maybe?
I think even before that.
Yeah. Somebody told me once that it was designed, when they first did it, the smaller lots, the RA2 lots, were right around the center of town, in that kind of a semicircle. And as the town grew, it would grow into the RA1s, but the idea was, at that time, which never happened, that the RA1 would then be reduced to RA2. So as the town grew, it grew, I suppose, gracefully within the existing zones. And if you look at the zoning map, that's exactly how it was set out. I mean, the smaller lots are closer into the center of the community, and then as you got into the bigger land areas, the lots got bigger. And I don't know, I mean, obviously that was a long time ago, so I don't know what the thought process was, but those are some of the things I've heard over the years.
I think now it's to preserve like open space too, right?
Yeah, that too.
Well,
yeah.
it's to not overburden the infrastructure as well.
I mean, which when these were created, there wasn't any infrastructure. I mean, they, Piper Road, Bernie Ave, they were all
So right now,
dirt
someone
roads.
could go down to RC and put a 600 square foot house on a 10,000 square foot lot.
Yep, they can do that anyway.
I mean, at 10,000 feet is pretty small for a piece of land, that's what, a quarter of an acre? Huh? A little
you
less.
said, it's 10,000?
Acre
It's about a quarter.
Yeah, it's about a quarter, 40, what is it, 41, 42?
43 and
By 6
change.
feet.
And if you add towers, it's gonna go down to 5,000 in my district.
That was only for like the Merrick area.
So that would be an overlay, RD would become an overlay,
Nope.
or
it would
just
be
a zone, an actual zone?
Mhm.
Which would help them out a lot down there.
Yeah, it definitely would.
That's 50 by 100.
Which is about what they are
That's
doing
almost
now.
all the lots.
That's what, back then, that's what they did, they went down,
Yeah.
50 by 100 on both sides of the street.
And you can see that's how the community grew. It started in, American Memorial with the typical 50 by 100 lots of the day, which goes back, I suppose, to the early 1900s. And then as the town expanded, it went into bigger lots, subdivisions.
And
So,
people didn't drive back then, I mean, every family had one car, so you needed
Yeah.
everything close proximity for people to get there.
so I will say that on the lot area requirements, these zones are very old. We've had them for a long time, but the lot area requirements were not as high as they are currently. I don't know exactly when they were raised to what they are now, but they didn't start that high.
I think the other thing too is, you gotta think of everybody. You might have people that don't want neighbors right next to them, so they wanna live in a neighborhood where you have to have X amount of square feet. So, yeah, they could buy a 1 acre lot, but if you let the guy next door put a tiny house in, that's not fair to the guy who wants to live in that other type of neighborhood. So it would definitely, I think that's why you have different restrictions in different zones. You pick your lifestyle, that's where you go live. If you don't wanna be right next to a neighbor, or you want a big lot so you can let your dogs run, you pick a zone where You're not gonna go down to the Merrick section and buy a 50 by 100 lot and have 4 dogs running around with, I'm sure some of them. I think that's the other reason why you would have different size restrictions.
So if somebody wanted to build a tiny house development, it would be set up like a mobile park. And where could something like that go in town?
Nowhere right now, they'd have to get a zone change.
Yeah, they would need the zone change. They'd have to find an area big enough to accommodate whatever they wanted to do.
And it would never
Petition
fly.
for a zone change.
There's no way that would fly,
From what aspect?
the residents.
Depend on where it is. You need 5 acres anyways, don't you? Isn't that what the thing says?
And there are 5-acre lots, I mean, they do exist.
Some of the houses aren't bigger than a large shed.
Yeah, they're
600
very
feet,
small.
right here.
Yeah.
But they can do that now. You can put, this room is 600 feet, and you can put it on a lot.
The tiny houses are much smaller.
Tiny houses are 300.
Not even some of them. They're very small. A lot of them are very, very small.
Look,
The
I
medium.
personally don't care about the size.
I
It's
think we should
more
have something,
just
someone
the-
come in and talk about it though before we finish this all up.
Yeah.
Like, so we understand if that's what we want.
I don't think
That's
it's something
fine,
that's
but we
gonna go
gotta-
away.
Yeah, we should do that probably soon if we're gonna start talking about this. I mean, I hate to do all this work and then all of a sudden we have this conversation about tiny homes and then we gotta go back and change what we did here.
I think if the thought is that we're doing a comprehensive review and.
Yeah,
looking to-
no,
Looking forward, that's something that's definitely,
I mean, again, though, I think the issue is not just the zoning, there's
yeah,
health.
which is why
Right,
John,
but we're
Jonathan
not.
would be helpful, that's fine.
Yeah. I
But
think
we're
so.
not doing, that's not our issue, right?
No, but we're not gonna zone for something that you can't legally
Right.
build under the
Right,
building
I mean,
and
it's
health
just like
codes.
these places aren't set up to be, tied to, sewer, it's just like, I mean, I suppose, but then they become a permanent structure if it's all piped underground and it's stubbed up for these things to,
And then they can't move it.
yeah, well, they can move it, but I mean, it just,
It's not easy to
Is
do.
there something now that says that a dwelling has to be on a foundation?
I think there's gonna be some interaction between the building code and the zoning code. I don't know that there's actually anything, no, I believe you could put it on piers.
I was gonna say, you can totally build it on piers, it's like
Yeah.
it could be slab on grade too, for that
Could be a
matter,
slab,
it's
yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
there's nothing that says you have to have a cellar.
Right.
No, but the foundation isn't a cellar, it's a 4-foot, even if you have a slab, you have to have a 4-foot
Yep.
frost wall.
Yep,
So it's a foundation. Again, I'm sure you're sick of hearing it, but it's the wheels that bother me. It's a damn campground, there's no other way of looking at it. You put 10 of them on
You
a.
can move it, it's mobile.
So a trailer is hardwired to the septic in the trailer? How does
What's that?
like John
A
Drive,
trailer park, like,
Are
okay.
you talking about a campground or a mobile home park?
No, I'm talking about our existing mobile home park.
they're all,
Tied in.
They're all tied.
To their own septic, or is it
Nope.
a shared
No,
septic?
Nope.
I don't know if
There's
that's
sewer.
sewer or not, maybe.
I'm pretty
They
sure
have sewer.
that facility has sewer, 'cause I mean, I've been underneath most of them, and it's just like, they're all stubbed down through, they're on a slab.
Yeah,
And the 4-inch pipe comes up out of the ground and
Yep.
ties to the middle.
Yep, and same with the water
difference between
service.
that, you know, and the campground is the campground, our hoses are flexible. You pop it on the motor
but
home
it all,
or trailer.
and it all has
pop-
its own separate thing. So if you had a tiny house development, and it was set up with all them things, and even if it was movable, wouldn't it really be the same as a mobile home?
That's what yeah.
That's what I think, it's,
That's-
it's,
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
it's movable, it's a mobile home, it's got
The
wheels.
difference between a mobile home and a tiny house.
But you can't unhook your septic
Yeah,
by
you
yourself, by yourself?
Sure you can.
I know what you're saying, it's more like an RV park, really,
It
like
is
you
an RV
pull
park.
up, you can,
pull up-
next week I'm going to Fresno,
And
see ya.
by the way, you
Sanitary
can't hook
code
up to a
issue.
mobile home, you have to have a permit, you have to
State
have a
doesn't allow
moving
those.
company, a special license to move those, they're wider than 8 feet.
And some of them you have to
The tiny houses-
disassemble, because they're double wides.
The
Right.
tiny houses are made so they can pick up and leave, just like a trailer. They're 8.5 feet max, so they can go down the street. Anybody can tow them with their pickup truck. You can't do that with a mobile home.
Mark's point, or comment, was probably the most relevant, and that's the people putting these things in the backyard of existing houses.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm
Technically, you
sure,
can't do that now, so that's an enforcement issue.
I mean,
You can't put your trailer in your front yard. You
There-
can't live in it in your backyard.
well, there's one on Sibley I think somebody's occupying.
A
Is that
tiny
gone?
house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gone, I think.
No, is it? I haven't been back there or
I
down
mean,
there.
they built.
The one that
it-
was in the driveway?
Yeah.
Right before.
Yeah.
I went by there, I don't remember seeing it in the last week or two.
If you're like me, it's just stuff that's still there and you just don't see it anymore.
They're on vacation.
Yeah.
I
They're
couldn't
gone for the
figure out what
Christmas
that
holiday,
was.
they'll be back.
Holy, I mean, somebody just
Crazy.
They,
built it as a hobby?
no, they were moving to.
She's gonna move into it, yeah.
I have no
She's a
idea.
teacher at Tatum,
I knew one of
the
the
woman.
neighbors and.
That
they were
lives, that
moving-
has the trailer
I
in
think
the
they were
front
going to
house?
That was building
Arizona,
it,
but
yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
What was it? It was a camper?
Ramos.
Huh?
No, it's a tiny home.
It was a
Oh,
tiny
it was
home.
a tiny home there already?
Yeah,
Oh, I
It's
missed
in the
that.
driveway, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's gone now, though.
So now she's moving, you said?
Supposedly, it was built so they could move to Arizona.
So,
I don't know them, I just knew one of the neighbors or whatever. But again, it's,
where is there a place that lets these houses go in there? There's gotta be there's gotta be towns that are already doing this.
Waco, Texas?
I was gonna say that the biggest, some of the biggest tiny home developments that I'm aware of are in Texas and New Mexico.
Maybe we look to see what they make them do and what
Why, you
their,
wanna be,
their
Waco,
stuff
Texas?
is.
I don't think the size of the house is the issue, I think it's where they're gonna put them.
Yeah,
What
it
size of the
totally
lot,
is.
I mean, if you're gonna put a tiny home on a half-acre lot, what's the big deal? But if you're gonna try and cram it behind a house or put it on a substantially smaller lot, then that's an issue for zoning.
It's
Or what
clustered.
about a development of them though? What does that look like?
Well, you gotta go to a mobile home zoning and have a 5-acre piece,
So,
and the lot, and the
yeah,
lots
people can do
are,
that
the lots are
together if they
smaller
wanted.
in the mobile home thing.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, that I will fight that tooth and nail as a resident, that it's a campground, it's not a mobile home park. You can hook up to that.
You've heard it here
That's your prerogative.
If any Tom, Dick, and Harry can hook up to that tiny home with their truck and drive away, it's not a mobile home, it's a camping trailer.
This just
An
in.
RV. Huh?
I said you heard it here first, folks.
Right here. I'll fight it tooth and nail. It's a
And what would that
camping
look
trailer,
like
it's
for
not a.
taxes? Like,
Okay,
how would that
can we
be?
get off the tiny home?
You could just get off and not pay taxes.
Well, I mean, John Drive residents
off,
don't
not pay
pay
rent.
taxes. I mean, individual to property taxes,
Where was
that the
that?
whole development
Allison,
pays
where
a
was
real
this
estate tax, and it's,
Just on
you know,
Lillian.
Where was your,
Yeah.
what was
What
your
about the
thought
mobile
for
home?
the,
Is it-
move-
it's
the
personal
meeting
property?
today?
Personal
that,
property.
I was gonna say that,
Just
but it's
review
just like, they don't pay
line.
real estate taxes per se, cause it's, you know, part of their.
Just
I
whole-
thought we
Right.
would blow through
They
it.
pay-
No, it's because
They rent.
they're
rent, right?
leasing space, so it's
Right.
just like, you know, they pay $400 a
I
month.
was like
We have 20
frantically
minutes.
To the
putting
park.
more work together for everyone, and that was obviously not necessary.
Just seen it, we really appreciate it.
So are we having any,
This is great.
I believe.
do we have any
Color
changes
coding.
to this first page?
So what she, so Tara, Allison's idea was to get through this page with the RA1, RA and RA2 on
How we
it.
doing on that?
That's
So she
great.
thought we were gonna blow through it and we're down to like 20 minutes, so can we
I'm
get
okay with
through?
page one.
Well, so we haven't, I just want to gauge everybody's sense of these, at least the lot area requirements. Do they seem reasonable? I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Personally, I don't think we need the 30,000
No.
anymore, but,
I'd give you that too.
I don't know that it's a big deal.
We have a map.
I'm more.
And I don't
concerned
necessarily
about
think
the-
you need the
This is
150
a
feet
zoning
of
map,
frontage
right?
on that RA either. But there again, it's been there for a long time.
Mind if I use some of your space?
No, well, look at those houses, I don't know what the name of the street is off of
So
Bernie,
RA and RA1.
that they,
RA is what color?
that's recently been completed, like when you're going down Bernie on the left-hand side.
Right?
I mean, the very first house those are half-acre lots,
So where
correct?
are we?
That was a split zone. 3 of the lots are half acre and the rest of them are
That's like
in the RA.
whole-
The
Okay.
zoning went right through the middle.
All right, so the first house that was built there, which was the first house on the left, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep,
Don't call on them.
That house is probably on a half-acre lot.
I don't remember.
Okay.
And it looks
So that's where you
weird
can have
because it's
30,000.
such a big house on such a small lot.
30,000 square feet.
And that's
Where
about
is it, Reed?
quarter.
It's, I don't know the name of the street, but it's off of Bernie
Cluster
Ave.
development in
And
RA.
it's
Our job is to.
one of the more
think
recent
we have any
developments
clusters.
on the left-hand
If you look at
side.
what you just said.
That is something
I
that
think the reason for that is
PVPC
we
suggested.
faced that house toward the new street instead of Bernie. So, which required us to push it over. So the bulk of the lot is up on the Bernie Ave side, and it's an illusion. But that is probably
Okay, so we don't have any
one of
clusters,
the-
so we don't,
No, that's something we probably get
half-acre
rid
lots.
of.
It's probably one of the RA1 lots.
so why do we have that? Why can't we
First,
get
I
rid
think
of
the
it?
first 3 lots on the street, and then the zoning line
It's-
went across, so the last,
I don't wanna talk over.
I think there were 7 lots. The
Can we
last
just get,
4
can we just get to the, so I just asked Allison why we have on, the cluster development as it's 20,000 instead of 30,000. She says we don't have,
No,
Cluster
so the cluster
development
development was, it was sort of like a planning movement that happened where the idea was you have smaller lots, houses closer together with a requirement that there's open space so that
common
you don't
area,
need.
common space, yeah.
Right, common open space that's dedicated as open space, so that you're not building as much roadway, you're not putting in as much underground infrastructure, and it's more environmentally friendly. It just has never taken off in West Springfield.
Right. And there's a lot of those co-housing developments in like Amherst and Leverett
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Birch Park.
Well, those aren't the co-housing type of
Right.
co-housing developments I was
you were
thinking
carrying.
about, but
Can we talk about, I mean, Bill started to say, he personally didn't think you need 30,000, and then he said, I personally, maybe even 150. What, and our job is to try and condense and make things, why don't we look at combining RA and RA1?
right, well, that's
So
kind
you
of what
get
I'm.
rid of the 30,000, you get rid of the 150 feet.
Well, that's
everything
kind of what
else-
I'm thinking of, is like, is there a way when you're looking, like, so we don't have cluster development, so we keep that?
I could
and
care less
can
if
we
we got rid
combine-
of cluster development across the board and
At what
added
size?
RA and RA1 together. Make one zone out of the
Why do
two.
we have the two of them?
Because RA is really it's around Bear Hole. It's a much more rural residential area than RA1 for the most part.
There's no land left out there.
but I guess the implication to that is, some of the larger lots that are there now could end up getting subdivided and more flag lots.
Yeah, and just higher density. It would just result in a higher density of what does remain, and there are some big lots out there.
Because if you've got a 40,000 square foot lot and you happen to live in RA, and now we reduce it to 20,
You can sell your back lot.
So
You
I
can-
can turn my.
yep,
I think the bigger that bigger question is do you want higher density housing in this town? Is that what?
Well, I think the density between the 2 zones is minimal. I mean, I don't think you can really say it's creating a higher density.
What, by combining the two?
Yeah.
No, but by
because of the
shrinking the
land
lot.
area, the land parcels that are
So if you
left.
combined RA and RA1 and you said 20,000,
Right, there are probably a lot of 40,000 square foot lots that could be.
yep. That's why I say, don't touch it, because I think
oh, I
you're
see
gonna
what you
create
mean. So I
creating
have
a month.
40,000, so then I make you make
Sure.
the change to 20,000 and I sell a piece.
I mean,
to
if
my-
you're able,
Got it.
with where your house is situated on the lot, I mean, there are other factors that would make it
Right.
not
Yeah,
as
it's
simple
not-
as chopping it down the middle,
Like,
but.
like I'd have to tear down half my house, you know what I mean, to get enough
Well-
room to put a driveway, to put another lot in the back. Is it possible? Yeah, if you move it to.
Well, I wasn't thinking about the ones that are cumbersome to do, I'm talking
Just the
about the
ones that
ones
have
that
the
are
extra land.
easy to do.
Well, and if the house is a tear down, somebody's not gonna have any problem.
Tearing it down
doing
and then
that.
making it, right.
And then your bare hole is
Yeah,
So
well,
then,
becoming like.
so it comes back to what she said is,
Depends on what you gotta tear down, you know?
Do we want more houses in that area or not?
It's not a big issue. I don't think.
Well,
What's
it's not
not a big
something that
issue?
needs to be decided this
Leaving it.
moment.
Leaving it the two, RA and
Right.
RA1.
Not a big issue.
I think that there would probably be a lot of people that live out there that would be concerned.
Be what?
Concerned.
Yeah, I mean, if we could change it, I
It's a
just,
George Kelly line. I'm very concerned.
so.
I say you're opening Pandora's box.
Stress.
What?
Do you have some post-traumatic
So we're
stress?
gonna know the same.
Just blurt
Page
out
one
random.
is staying the same,
I'm
Page
good.
one, staying the same.
everything's good?
Well, did you guys look at look at everything? The side yard, rear yard,
They're all
front
the same,
yard.
aren't they?
They're
They
all the
haven't
same.
changed between Tara's and the current, but
But they're different in each.
But do you think they need to? Is that?
I
Well-
don't, for these zones particularly, I think that,
It's-
These three
Yeah.
were good.
Is there something saying we have to have that cluster part of it?
no, we
Could we get
can,
rid of all
it's a
that?
section in the zoning ordinance. I thought Tara had removed it, but
The only comment I'll make about side yards is, it really is, it's almost like it needs to be, well, it's proportional to the size of these houses. It's just like, you go up Bear Hole Road, and I don't know the name of the development that pushed in on the left-hand side
Cedar
last,
Woods.
huh?
Cedar Woods.
Sure, there you go. And they're relatively small lots, and you got these gargantuan houses, and it's like they just appear to be on top of each other.
In my neighborhood, it's like that. The houses, some of them are almost 2,000 square feet, but literally I could spit out my window and hit his house.
those are
not
probably
nice, Joe.
I know.
not performing.
But really, it's true.
Well,
But
They
20,
can't-
20 feet really isn't, it's not that much.
well, I mean, you end up with 40 feet between houses, you know, is what you end up with, but, I don't know, just my thoughts.
We appreciate your thoughts.
Some of my
I mean,
neighbor's
the other-
driveway is actually
you know,
on
then
the
you
other
go-
neighbor's lawn.
Then you don't live there? You know, I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but I mean, it's, then you go to the RA,
Well, that's the highest
That, I mean,
requirement.
20, it's,
20 feet's the highest.
yeah, but it's just like, I mean, that's just one development that kind of comes to mind
Oh,
that,
that's
you know, the houses, just because of their sheer size.
20 feet's quite a bit.
I just spent 7 months in Arizona, and a lot of the neighborhoods have 4,000 square foot houses on 10,000 foot lots.
Well,
So
yeah,
that's-
California is another place that they live on top of each other, but it's
Yeah.
just like,
Because they spend a lot of time
Yeah.
outside and they don't wanna maintain and stuff. So
That's what
it's
zoning's all
just a
about, so that we
personal
don't look like
preference.
California.
Well, our climate is,
Where am I gonna throw my snow?
Yeah,
Against my neighbor's window
yep.
while I'm
but
spitting
I, you
out?
know, I certainly see what you're saying.
Well, Joe's spitting on it.
you laugh, when I lived in Chicopee, I had to blow it down the driveway and over the fence into her yard
I
or
get-
behind my
We
house.
get calls all day for people complaining that people are throwing their snow on the neighbor's lawn, which is already under 2 feet of snow. I don't want their snow on my lawn all day long. Like, where do you want to put it, pal? You can't put it in the street, there's nowhere else to put it. Well, that's my lawn. So you got a stack of 10 feet high at the end of your driveway? I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah. In our neighborhood, literally, so the driveway to our neighbor's house is like not even half the size of this table. And we have like from the Allison's book right there, and there's a great big huge tree, and you have to pile all the snow we get in between the tree and the little buffer right there. And that's all the place that he has to put his snow.
Well, don't put it on your yard.
No, he can blow it in our yard, but, I mean, it does happen right here in our neighborhood up on.
That's why we have bigger buffers, because California
We
doesn't
got
get
10
snow.
minutes to okay this first page.
So to Reed's point, how does everybody feel about the 20-foot side yard being the most we ask for, even in the Residence A
I'm
zone?
okay with it.
I think it's fine. It's been working fine for a good number of
If
years.
I wanted to
I-
change anything, I'd say that I get nervous with this whole cluster thing. But-
So I think that is a conversation we can have about removing it, and it may have been that Tara's table was an oversight on her part, because I think she did remove it from the ordinance. Like there's a section in the ordinance for cluster plan requirements, and I think she removed that. I think the intention was to get rid of it. Yeah, I'll have to email her.
So, I already counted them, Bridget.
So like, right to where Bill's sitting. If you count
So-
the tiles are like a foot each, right? So that'd be 20 feet.
Allison is gonna
Bill.
look into Tara's intent on the cluster development. She thinks Tara might, her intention might
Was
have
to
been
get
to
rid of it?
remove it, which I would be perfectly happy with.
Well, and even if it wasn't her intention, if the will of the room
Right.
is to get rid of it, then we can just get rid of it.
Well, that would make it easier. Do you wanna look at that now? Do you wanna take, do we
In
think we have a
in
need
today's
for that?
modern planning, is there something else going on
Yeah.
that kind of replaces the cluster idea of 30 years ago or 40? I think this might have come
No, I
in.
mean, I think it's still relevant in some places, it just, again, it never really took off here, there's not a lot of large tract parcels, or I mean, large tracts of land where you would want to develop it this way and have the open space, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work well in West Springfield.
Well, that and the,
People would prefer to have condos, I think.
right, I was gonna say, the type of people that live in West Springfield don't gravitate towards
Right.
that type of
And which is-
living arrangement.
Which is fine, I think, you know, and personally, I would rather live in a condo and pay the HOA fee and have the shared area, but not have to mow the lawn and do all that other stuff. With this, you still have to mow your lawn and, you know,
So that's the difference between the two, Allison, between the condo association and that?
This is single-family detached, they're just on smaller lots.
And
They're clustered around a common
they don't
area.
have a homeowners association.
You know, it's an open space thing.
They
Sounds like
they
when they
might,
come
but it
Florida a lot,
doesn't,
where they have
it's
all
not
the
to
HOAs and they shut
maintain
the
their
pool and the tennis
yards.
Why is it
Pretty
like
much.
They
backyard?
might, because they
They
need
have a
brush
common area in
plowing
there?
They're not
on the
individual
street,
lots, but it's
private
kinda like-
street,
Birch
or
Park
kind of that kind
Avenue?
of thing.
No, it's a housing authority.
No, it's one piece, yeah.
Well, then just picture something like that, all
Setup is the
individual
same.
lots with a common area in the middle.
But
That's
that,
what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
And age restricted housing, that's where Beach Hill is. Yeah, sooner rather than later, I'd assume.
So where are we? Besides,
Pretty much where we started.
I'm just looking at the map.
Would it be helpful, kind of listening to what you two were talking, there are parcels that
hold
are,
it.
that are 10 acres that are still left in town. There's not a lot, but there's enough that could be developed.
Well,
And how do we want, how do people feel about that, and what do they want that to look like?
Are you saying maybe keep the option open to do a cluster development? I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Well, I guess
20,000
what's the
square feet
point-
is,
Right, what's the point of
All right.
reading it?
How many cluster
We don't
development
have it.
proposals have been made since this was put in the table?
None.
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 none that I'm.
And I'm not saying it has to be cluster, I'm just saying, in general,
The way it's currently written, the approval process is extremely expensive. You have to design a regular subdivision complete to see how many lots you would get, and then you have to design the cluster the way you want it, and that's when the comparison is made. But I mean, it's $100,000 worth of permit process, and you might not get the approval.
Oh, wow.
So, and it is partially the size of available land parcels. You need a pretty big piece to pull this off.
Yeah, and I just don't see that happening because
Well,
what's,
there's also an opportunity, people can buy two parcels next to each other and do an A&R, and now you got a big enough parcel. Tear down a couple houses, a
Yep.
couple old houses.
And that's where
We gotta
West-
forget that, we cannot forget that.
but that is where West Springfield is heading. We are heading to a tear-down community. And it's not gonna be that long.
No, it's already happening.
Especially in the Merrick section, I think, as things
Yeah, I mean,
get bought
different
and combined
sections.
and- Yeah.
You know.
but then what do you want
What do
that
you
to
want it to
look
look
like?
like?
I don't think the town in general looks that bad the way it is,
I don't either.
you know?
But I'm just saying,
afraid
we don't
when you put
have,
things like cluster in there, that you're gonna start changing the look of the town.
Which is why I say you can take cluster out, because if we haven't ever had one, and this has been on the books for 25 years or 30 years.
I make a motion, we remove cluster development.
Don't you wanna read through it first?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
Maybe it's a
haven't-
matter of.
I haven't read this thing
what
in
you
20
need to
years.
do for
Me either.
performance.
Well, I haven't read it at all.
Say that again?
Maybe it's a,
I
you need
withdraw my
to
motion.
change what you need to do for requirements. I mean, a cluster development, would that work in the Merrick section if people,
No.
5 acres divide under, that you could
No,
rebuild?
you're not gonna have
You
that-
have
don't
to
have that extra
assemble it, I
space.
think.
It's only for A1, and A2.
Yeah.
So you couldn't do something like that.
Oh, you're done with this, right?
I guess.
I
I
brought,
saw your house.
I think you gave me
if
one.
someone already took it, don't take another one. But if you didn't get one, take it.
Oh, I get to take it?
For your homework.
It's actually pretty interesting if you study it. And you figure out where everything
Alright, so the homework is gonna be to look into cluster development.
What do we-
To accomplish what we put on that page, Allison.
I mean, yeah, if it's gonna stay the same, that's pretty
Yeah, so
straightforward.
the only issue that we're looking into is whether we want the cluster development.
Yeah, and that's not, I mean, that's all, for all of you to think about, I think. And maybe read through the requirements. I'm familiar with it, I don't, from a planning perspective, it's more environmentally friendly. But if it's not what you all think is good for the town, then that's fine.
Okay. And how about RV and RC and RV?
So that'll be for next time, if you guys
Right.
wanna look at it. Feel
Homework
free.
wise.
So the Tara part was RD was gonna be down in the Merrick section instead of what?
Residence C.
Which
So
is
there
basically just trying to bring
everything
a
in
lot of
conformance.
into
Yeah, I
conformity.
get that.
So
And
there
make it
will
easier
be
for people to rebuild.
other places that RC remains,
So
like
right
Elm
now,
Street,
it's this
but
Right, that area, I just said that.
It'll be switched to this.
Do we have a
Lessons.
footprint of where RD, like a map?
yeah, I'll
or-
look, I think she did something, hold on.
We should probably.
I think it was just between Union and Maine,
Union and Maine, yeah.
but I'll look.
That would have to, we should make sure that's. And not to be a pain in the neck, but that's my thing.
Yeah.
We really need to put a plan together for tiny houses or a
Well, we're
separate.
gonna, no, I'll send an email to Jonathan and see if he can come in and chat about it.
So I'd like to consider two different components of that, the mobile ones and the not mobile ones.
Yeah, we'll see
Which
if
I
he
know
can
you
come
said
in
was
and,
under, was under.
I'm sure they've dealt with it.
So when you say the not mowers, are you looking to take our existing minimum 600 foot and make it smaller? Or are you?
I'm thinking about more
What's up?
like the lots.
Melissa? Cause I have to get to the office. Oh, I didn't wanna
Would
sit.
you like to set up like a mobile home park where they come in and hook up to?
What was the outcome of your inquiry
something like a
regarding?
Just have,
Um,
you can have.
Next
You know, the
meeting?
typical, like, we're,
Next meeting?
actually, he was really,
January 3rd.
Oh, we have to
Very-
come back. Oh.
you know, give him my, if anybody sees anything, give him my cell phone number, blah, blah.
Clear your
But I got
calendar for the
people,
next
like,
5
they weren't
years, too.
short-staffed, and they,
I am, I didn't.
You're not retiring within 5
Yeah.
years, are you?
Retiring, how old do you think I am? I wish I was.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
That's
Has there
all I
been
have.
an ongoing issue?
Family.
Yeah, January
By the time
3rd.
We're done with this. Yeah, January 3rd,
No, I
everyone.
mean, yes.